Today's goal is going to be drawing methods combined with drawing mediums. How do I use the method that I want to explore in terms of drawing with the medium? So for this first drawing, I'm going to use charcoal. I'm going to use charcoal pencil, charcoal stick, and I want you to really focus your attention. Place your focus mostly on what the drawing method is going to be, and then enhance that method with techniques with that medium. So I'm going to use a charcoal pencil for this first one, and my drawing method is going to be blind drawing. So this is one where how would I go about blind drawing here? Is it looking more at negative space? Is that what he means? Is it just blind contour drawing? Notice also I have two images, the full resolution color, and then there's a levels, black and white. The charcoal drawing is going to be basically thinking ahead in my strategy. I'm going to do a nice blind contour, and then I'm going to gesture and bring out light and shadow by working those darks. I want to maybe bring in a little bit of that reflection. So a lot of it is kind of solved for us in that levels image, in that notan, basically light and shadows. So again, experimenting with method, and here we go. So for this first one, I want to make sure I have good posture. I want to make sure I have good grip. I mentioned methods, expanding and pushing the distance you can really bring yourself to thinking about not just the drawing method, but grip, whether I do left-handed, and apply the method. For this one, I'm going to stay with right hand, and I'm going to check my posture and pick my spot. Now I really want to make this 100% blind drawing. That's what it's about. So the process of mark making while I'm focusing on the drawing method, I know there's a temptation of, I need to look at proportion. What if I'm way off? Remember, right now it's about thought process. It's about how it feels. Think of these as sketches, studies. I went on a beautiful walk this morning around Apex Community Park Lake. There's all these ducks flying around, swimming, walking, taking off. Imagine you're there with a piece of paper, charcoal, and you're just capturing it as you see it. Now, how do we really bring our level of focus? Notice that I'm going, well, if you are doing blind drawing, you can, but when you rewatch the video, you'll see that a lot of the lines, sometimes I give myself little clues going into, and this is where it makes me nervous. So maybe do it 99% blind drawing, where you just catch yourself checking for proportion at the right spot, but staying true to the method. Oh my gosh, I got lucky there. Pretty good, pretty good. So feeling your way through a blind contour. And at this point, what do I begin to look for? So with charcoal, notice that my line is broken. There's bits of gesturing. So I'm beginning to look at direction, a little bit of the saturation, the load of charcoal, the darkness in some of these. I'm actually looking more through squinting at this point, trying to get almost a blind drawing of the reflection here. And it's mimicking just some of the movement of the water, the shapes, very linear, somewhat broken. And I would come back at some point to fill in some of these, and it should be maybe, now that I think of it, a little bit lighter. So it gives us that light reflective quality that would not compete with the actual values on the subject. So we get to play a little bit with textures as well. We're looking at watermarks. How do I develop water movement, water reflections, whether it's waves and ripples, plus light. All right, there we go. I'm going to stop for a second, make a quick step here, and I'm going to use a brush. So the technique, now with the drawing method of blind drawing, and I'm extremely happy with what I have so far. As far as mark making, here's the thing. This could have looked like a shoe. Oh no, I'm way off, and it looks more like a shoe. That's fine. It's more about experiencing, feeling your way through your mark making as you become more and more confident in your application of the drawing method. That's a better way to explain it, what we're trying to do here. If obviously you're looking for just mark making, then the easiest way would be to make it abstract, just about mark making. But this pushes us a little to a different space, where obviously we're dealing with, for example here, not just mark making, but value. And am I beginning to get a little feel of water movement, water reflection? I actually am. The qualities that I would hope. So it goes beyond line, it goes beyond shape. Now it's going into texture and value. But it's all done through the method and the application of the technique. In this case, simple charcoal pencil. I'm going to bring in this just a little bit more. So here, am I painting or am I drawing? Well, I'm actually using some of the charcoal left on this brush to create a little bit of layering. Sort of first layer of nice light grays inside my subject here. And maybe play a little bit with even lighter back here in our background. How far do you need to take your drawing? How far do you push the technique? How far do you need to go in terms of level of detail? And I explained what it means as far as level of detail. Would you be happy with just this right here? No, it definitely needs a little more. Do I need a paper blender for certain areas? So I'm going to look at some of the softer, seeing how I could create, and I do like that already, a bit of feathery, this feathery motion, this paper blender with a little bit of charcoal rubbed on, and just the quality of the direction and the pressure of this mark making delivers the look that I want. Look at that right there. And it will get a little darker. Let's go back to our drawing method. Should I continue with blind drawing here? The key to blind drawing, what is it about? It's not that you cannot ever look at your page. It's how much do you have to look at your page? Where is the attention? Is it on your subject as you draw? Because you could check the ideal. I've said this many, many times. Is it 90%, 95%, 99%? When it gets below 90%, meaning every 9 seconds of looking at your subject, you look down for 1 second. And in fact, it's actually less than that. For every second you're looking at your subject, you look down for 1 microsecond. And when you look down, what are you looking for? That's a more interesting question there. What are you trying to confirm? Are you trusting your mark making? Is it feeling right? Is it just because you want it to be in the right place? You don't want to be somewhere over here thinking you're in the neck. Oops. And look at that. It can enrich your drawing. So getting the right feeling, it is really connecting. Becoming the duck. And beyond becoming the duck, becoming the duck's throaty feathers as I look, as I try to interpret it's not exactly overthinking every single mark. Matter of fact, it's the opposite. It's shutting it down and becoming so in the zone where your eye and your hand become one almost. Where your eye goes and how your eye sees, that becomes the gesture of your hand. And all the knowledge from the experience of drawing is applied into that gesture. Now, some of the unconscious qualities in the mark making, so a little bit of your psychology, your state of mind, your mood, all of it is going to show. So how do I control some of these things? The thought process of, is this enough? Do I need to... The strategy, in other words. It really only comes through practice. The more you practice and the better you practice. So practicing studies just like this with a little bit of attention on specific things like we're doing today is going to allow the next study, the next sketch, the next drawing to become more and more accurate in terms of what you're really hoping for, looking for. So I'm beginning to think a little bit of beyond texture, beginning to consider value in order to capture a little better volume. So I feel some of the volumes of the neck here. I want better gestures instead of the blending. It's blending it with the brush. It's taking a little bit away from it. And what is, to this point right here, as far as details needed beyond this point, that's more of a conscious part of your drawing method. How do I make the decision of, yep, it needs a few more marks, and by a few, it's maybe, what is that? 2 more, 6 more, 12 more, 100 more. And if so, what was the thought process to get you there? So, wow, that face, that head looks so finished. The reason I would choose charcoal for this, for drawing studies, it is because of what just happened here. Just a little bit of pushing the technique in the direction of where you could still see the mark, the gesture, and that blending that creates the automatic volume. There's a few things about anatomy of ducks that we may, as we draw more ducks, we will obviously learn more and more about. But here, how do I read and decode what I perceive as volumes? So the roundness and the weight. Mostly you just follow, and that's why I added the notan, the levels image at the bottom. The shapes. If you can capture levels of value in the right shapes, And here I just take it one step further to see what the technique is going to do for me. Is it going to be with brush, or would it be better with paper blender? So lots of these are one and done. They're finished. They barely need any touch at all. And do you have to blend? No, not at all. You could just choose gesture and mark making as your one and done. Beginning to see a couple of lines that seem extremely important here. And the way I treat this as a sketch, as a study, well, obviously the precision of some of these marks it's going to have a lot to do with how you approach this study. And if you're more aiming for a more precise representation of it, then yeah, a little more measuring and fine-tuning some of these shapes is required, then you do that. So you may be thinking, whoa, he's working so fast and it's almost... Well, it's managing your pace. What I mean by that is I'm treating this as just as I want, as a sketch, a study, and the marks may not be as precise, and I'm talking about these here. Which shows the viewer, shows you what it is I'm looking for, what it is I'm focused on, what it is I'm seeing. And we'll all get to see what you were looking at, what you were saying, and how clearly you were seeing it, how much fun you were having with it. Just going around some of these edges, giving a little variation to the a little bit of feathery touch. And that little bit of extra volume. There's a nice pattern with the way these feathers overlap as well. So all of us have the beauty of art, such infinite ways of seeing, choosing what we see, how we see it, how much focus we put into it, and then how we describe that thing we see. Show you really quickly here how some of these markings and how far they could go. And to me, that is one of the biggest, I call it knowing, well, actually being aware at a conscious level of your target, of where you're going with this. As you begin to see it come together, asking the question, am I anywhere near? Am I close to it? How much definition do I need beyond this point? Which basically is showing us, in terms of how you handle the technique, what most of us would call your style. But it's also a bit of restraint. The tendency is to overcook it. That's why I'm stopping here. So there's my swimming duck in charcoal, and taking notes if I have to. I'll just make a nice little note here. This was my blind contour. Gesture in charcoal. And if I have to guess, this was about a 20-minute, 25-minute. Not that that matters, but just to keep track. A 25-minute study of a duck for reference. There we have it.